the feed
Uh,
for. Okay. Hey, everybody out there in Facebook land and YouTube land. We're out there on my YouTube. And it's just a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I have a special guest, Dylan Lake, and he's going to tell us all about how to have cyber health. So, because nowadays everybody's online, let's face it, and you have to be mindful of all these scammers and the things that you give out to people information wise. Joanne, how you doing, sister? All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dylan Lake, who is my guest tonight, and he's going to tell us how to stay cyber healthy. So,
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Robin.
yeah, no
Dr.
problem.
Swanson.
Yeah,
um,
thanks for
so,
being here.
yep. With on the subject of cyber health,
Yeah.
and I'm sure everybody's heard about AI on the rise.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is kind of time to, I guess, if you don't use the internet very much, or you don't think that there's too much information to be worried about on the internet. I'm not here to give you the gloom and doom.
Yeah.
There's some silver lining and some ways that you can protect yourself from these things.
Yeah,
But
that's
just
what
some
we need to
things
know.
that you're going to want to be aware of that if you aren't aware of, you can be more easily tricked by. But if you're aware of and you know what to look for, then you're going to have a lot easier time of identifying some of
Yeah,
these things. Um, you may
definitely.
have my background, I work as a systems administrator for essentially a power company, but we've expanded to do internet, TV, phone, and we basically serve the city of every service that we can.
Yeah.
And we get attacked by so many things on the
Oh,
daily.
God, yeah. Probably every
But
day.
luckily, yeah, but we have plenty of things in place that mitigate 99% of these things. So
Hmm.
even
That's good.
still, 1% is still a lot of stuff that we got to worry about.
Yeah.
Um, so some things that with AI on the rise, you're going to see a lot more active threats.
Hmm.
Like before, you just had to worry about making sure you don't take pictures of your driver's license. Don't put that online. Don't put your
Right.
social security number online. That sort of
Right.
stuff because people can, if you put it on like a message board or as a comment on a Facebook post or something like that,
Right.
you can program a machine to basically read every post of every comment of every
Yeah.
video on YouTube or whatever to get any information that they can and start stitching together that
Yeah.
information.
And they can do this
It's
with
something.
AI now because it's so smart and it learns and it will track you.
Yeah, and that's really
Yeah.
the main worry, these days is that AI, anybody with a few hours, like I've trained an AI myself to
Hmm.
to replace me as a dungeon master for my Dungeons and Dragons games.
Wow.
So within 3 hours, I had this AI running me through a dungeon as a single player, and it had given me like three other party members to play alongside that it was controlling. And I'm
Oh,
like, this
wow.
is me just messing with this thing for 3 hours. Imagine what you could do if you really wanted to do damage over the course of days or weeks if you really program these things.
Hmm.
And the the thing about AI is it's a lot easier to do damage than it is to build things. So, imagine building a house versus smashing it with a truck. And it's a lot easier to destroy than it is to build. You can build some pretty crazy, amazing things with AI.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we also have to keep in mind the people that are going to misuse these tools.
Yeah.
So I've had two positions at my place of work. On the
Hmm.
communications side, I've faced all the services that were handled for our customers for like the TV and the email stuff like that.
That was when
So,
you had to climb the water tower.
yep. For our LTE, we had the fixed wireless, so you could get internet out in the farmhouse without having to use a
Right.
satellite dish.
Yep.
So I'd have to climb a water tower to change out the antennas every once in a while, which
Yeah.
it's a great view, but a 300-foot ladder is a lot more exhausting than you first think is going to be to climb.
Right. You got to take a snack.
Yeah, you take a break halfway up, basically.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
So then
and
now
yeah,
you're on. Oh, go ahead.
Well, so like on that side, I would be worried about like emails and phishing and stuff like that because
Mhm.
there's so many, of all the emails that get sent on the internet,
Uh,
I want to say about 20% of them are actually emails that anybody wants, be it newsletter or personal emails or whatever. Like
right.
80% is all just junk spam that's generated to try and get somebody to misclick on something to either give you advertisement or something you don't want.
Yeah. She says some people hacked her phone and computers last year and kept her from receiving opportunities. I
Yeah.
suppose mail and things like that.
So on that note, there are on the phishing side. So for emails, if you're getting emails from, hey, this is your boss, send me some money. You
Yeah.
might want to call your boss and say, hey, did you
Did you
send me
ask
this
me for
email? Do you really want
money?
to do this? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they give you a number to call, hey, call me on this number. I'm going to tell you what to do. You know, if you've got your boss's number already in your phone, just call your
Yeah.
boss's main number and then you can ask them like, "Hey, did you give me this other number to call?" And if they tell you,
Right.
"Yeah, you dummy, go call that number," then do that then,
Yeah.
but call your boss first.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense.
ideally, make sure that you're getting emails from people that you're expecting to get emails from. So if you get an
Yeah.
email from like an uncle that you haven't talked to in like 40 years that really you never talked to before, give that email a lot of scrutiny. There's
Yeah.
really, and it's sometimes it's not the first one.
Hmm.
I worked with when I was a cleaner at a glass factory. There was a security guard there that we all got along with the guy. He's just kind of a goofball. Well, there was one
Yeah.
time when he wasn't looking too good.
Yeah.
Um, well, he had given some money to a cousin of his that he had gotten a Facebook message from. Well,
Uh huh.
his cousin on Facebook had his account hacked. So
Oh
through his
no.
cousin's hacked account, somebody had talked to him and got him, I think it was like $2,000 or something that he had sent off to
Oh
like
my goodness.
a sure win lottery type thing, but it was just a
Right.
scam the whole time. His cousin had no idea what was going on. So,
Hey, check
any
this
kind of
out.
thing that if it seems kind of out of whack, it probably is. Who's that?
Uranium glass. Yes. Yes.
I don't
Use your
know.
intuition. Use your
Yeah,
intuition. If
it's,
you feel like, if you get this gut feeling that says, this isn't right, this just does not seem right, and then it's probably not. So listen to
yeah.
that.
If you get a text on your phone that says, "Hey, you're about to get a six-digit number, send me that six-digit number when you get it," that's probably someone trying to log in to your account elsewhere, and that would then send, password reset or something like that to your phone, and you
Right.
just gave them that password reset code. So,
How do
especially
people hijack your Facebook? Do you know?
so how they can hijack your Facebook is there are two main things, and this is why, sometimes you'll hear you need to have a strong password these days. Like
Yeah.
it is as real more than ever now
Right.
because s- I know a lot of people. I'm system administrator now, so I reset people's accounts. People's accounts get locked because they use bad passwords sometimes.
Yeah.
The number of people who use the same password for one site to use it in another site and another site and another site, they're using the
Yeah.
same password. If
Right.
any one of those sites gets hacked, that
You're
password
done.
will now let them into your account on all those
Everything.
other sites that you use that password with.
Right.
So say I've got a Facebook account, but I've
Hmm.
also got an eBay account and I've also got, my email account, say
Right.
Gmail or something.
Right.
If I
Might even be
go to
linked to
this
your PayPal.
yeah, and then I go to some other site that's like some homegrown, I like hunting, just a personally owned site. I
Right.
know a guy who buys and sells clocks, and he's got his own site that he uses to buy and sell
Right.
clocks. This is a website. Well, his security isn't
Hmm.
that great. So if you use your email and your password at his clock site and he gets
Yeah.
hacked, now someone else has your email and password. They can then take that email and password and then log into your Facebook using it.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you use different passwords for different things. So that's
Gotcha.
one way that they can get in.
There's
So if you
one way
use
to stay safe, people.
yeah, so if you have
Okay.
different sites, go to have different passwords. I've
Good.
got my coat is not over here, but I've got a little black book that I carry with me everywhere. And in that
Right.
little black book, I've got all my passwords for all my different sites.
Ooh, the
It's,
little black book.
it is it's across the room, otherwise I'd go grab it. But
That's
it is,
fine.
it's just a little black book that
Right.
hold, is held in the breast
Yeah.
pocket.
I'm surprised you don't
It's
write
good
it
for
in
taking.
runes, in the book.
I actually do. I actually do. So,
Oh, I was gonna
um,
say, because then,
but
then you know what?
that's
They're really screwed. They're never getting that password unless they know how
that's
to read runes.
geez.
I
So
can't
this
see
is
it. What's
another
it say?
this is another level of
Oh
password
yeah,
security. If you
there you
are going
go.
to write your password down, don't write it in plain text that people can just read.
Exactly.
So I have this as it is old Futhark runes. It's
Yep.
just a habit of mine because I do D&D. I'm a dungeon
Right.
master,
Oh,
and
come on. You're elfish, I
it's
think, a little
it's yeah, and
bit.
it's phonetic. So even if you did
Yes.
try to do like a letter replacement, it's still not going to give you the actual password. And usually
Right.
I'll give myself a hint in runes so I can just read it on post-it or something, but it's still
Yeah.
not the password itself.
Right.
Um,
That's
so
clever. That
basically,
is very clever. So there you
so
go. Passwords
that's,
and protect them.
yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, have some secure way. There are some applications too. There's like LastPass or KeyPass that essentially
Oh,
is just a
and
key
those are
vault.
safe to use.
It is exactly the expression of putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So take that with how you would prefer. I
Yeah.
don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. My
Right.
my
That's
egg,
kind of
my
what I
one
was
egg,
thinking, because
yeah,
then
my
all your passwords are right there.
but it's better than having your browser remember it because if your
Yeah.
browser remembers your password and somebody hacks into your browser, it's probably got lesser security than KeyPass or KeyVault, something like that.
Yeah.
So
It
if you
probably
are going to
does.
use something like that, then you would probably want to use an official key locker or something like that.
Yeah.
So basically, rule number one: make sure that you're using a different password for different sites. Because if
Gotcha.
one site gets compromised, then every other it's just an open gate to all these other sites.
Yes.
Um, Step number two would be to have a strong password to begin with. So, what is a
Yes.
strong password? Let's see here.
Something no one
So,
can guess.
yep. So here's a little test up here. Basically, you can Google a password strength checker. So let's just look at you know, uh, some people think that as long as your password is long, you've got a good, strong password. So let's do a strong password that's really long. And then how long is it going to take to guess that password? I mean, why is it taking such a short time? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 characters. That should take a lot longer than 0.14 seconds, right? Well, my password is a strong password. So the same goes for like if you want to do, password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It doesn't, these are like the first passwords anybody's going to guess. And usually when people are trying to brute force your passwords, so like, I'm sitting at Facebook, I'm trying to log into your Facebook or some other website, I'd probably attack a lesser secure site than Facebook even. So if you got like a personal, again, back to that clock site, I'm probably going to sit at that prompt and hit it with every password possible. And the first thing I'm going to hit with is every combination of password with numbers and Z's and all kinds of stuff. Anything with password in the name is not going to be useful. So for me, usually what I will do if I need to do a new password, I will just look around the room, and I've got a bit of a process. It's not just typing in a password. But I'll look around the room and I'll see. Um, I've got an upside down goose over there. So upside down goose. And that's, still really not that strong. If somebody sat there and tried to crack it for 3 days, they could get in. But what
Mhm.
I'll do is as I'm typing in the password, you should see my keyboard here. As I type in the password, I'm not going to type in upside down goose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type upside down goose, and as I'm typing it, I'm going to go up one key and over one key. So I'm going up and to the right. You can go up to the left, but up somewhere. So I would go up to the right. So our password again is upside down goose. I'm going to go U P S I D E capital D for down WN, and then Goose. G makes it a capital YOOSE. And it's the same password it took 3 days before. Now it takes 400 trillion years.
400 trillion years.
Yeah.
Ugh, I
So
can't get this to do it. I'm trying to fiddle around and make it so you can have the full screen and I can still
gotcha.
chat with you, but I'm having
Mhm.
trouble. Technical
Yeah.
difficulties over here. So,
But that's
but yeah,
essentially the process though. So
yeah,
if I wanted to take any kind of password, let's go back to a strong password.
yeah.
Let's do a strong password. This would take 1.15 seconds. But if as
So
I'm
with
typing it in, what's
I was
that?
going to say with AI, all this stuff can happen. They can just set the program to just shuffle through all these initial programs,
Yeah.
just and keep shuffling until they find it,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
So with
that's
AI now, it's like it's chances are likely if you have some silly password like that, they're going to pick up
they're
on
good.
it.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
that's essentially is the main, if you're using the same password on multiple sites, that's
Hmm.
crack number one in your armor. Crack
Yeah.
number two in your armor is if any one of those sites, if any one of those shared passwords is not
Yeah.
a strong password, they can get it in 1 second if they thought to try,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
So, basically you take this kind of crappy password and you just put it in through the different input of up and to the right. So a password, strong password. It's literally the same space in my brain to remember a strong password. I just type it up and to the right instead as I'm typing it in, and now
Hmm.
it's 2.6 million years.
Yeah.
Again, with AI and multiple machines hitting this thing, maybe I can get that down to like 20 years. But still,
Right.
it's 20 years to hack my password, and I'm not very valuable. They're not going to sink
Right.
every resource into getting my 2 million, 200 million of your password cracked.
Right.
So that's number two is just make sure, and you can do the fancy, let's see if I want to do, a strong password. You can do the elite speak, but it's still, so if I did a strong password, it'd be, an at sign, turn the O's into zeros, turn the A's into ats, maybe make the S's fives. It's still, and
Hmm.
this is so hard to remember.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where did I do all the special stuff. Maybe I put an exclamation in the end. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
But I can remember. Even still, way back from what we were talking about earlier. Upside
Uh-huh.
down. It's upside down goose. Then I can then type, up and to the right. So it'd be upside down goose. Oops. There we go.
Yeah.
Upside down
Okay.
goose
Yeah.
for 440 billion, billion years.
Yeah.
And
That's
you
good.
just got to remember the plain text, you know, sentence or whatever, and then just type it in really weird. Is
Yeah.
basically that step. So
So
again,
tell
it's just
us.
up and to the right,
Go ahead. I
up and to
wanted
the
to
left.
ask you to tell us a bit about what happened with the hackers that you had to,
Okay.
filter out.
Yep. So it's something you might hear in the news a lot, and you may have already heard it spoken of elsewhere. Something called a ransomware attack. What a ransomware attack is, um, well, it kind of comes from the word ransom. So imagine
Uh-huh.
somebody like stole something that is very valuable to you, and they
Hmm.
they want, hey, give me some
They
money.
want
So what
money
they'll
to
do is
get it
hack.
back.
Yeah. So what they'll do is they'll hack into your system and they
Hmm.
will encrypt all of your information. And what that means is they'll take like if you've got a text file that has all of your, codes and your passwords and your login information,
Hmm.
and then they, copy and paste and did or find replace, and they just garble up the whole information so it's completely unreadable to you anymore. Like you
Yeah.
can't use that information now because it's been completely mixed up and it's just
Right.
random chaos everywhere.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll get into your systems and they'll encrypt your entire hard drive. They'll shut down all of your servers. And the only way to get them to even boot up correctly is to basically reach out to them and pay them money. And hopefully they release their stuff so they can get back in your server. But then at that
Wow.
point, they'll just come right back at some point. Maybe they'll ask for
Sure.
more money later, and it just
They're
sucks
like
all the way.
pirates. They're pirates.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And the problem, not only do we have AI that we got to worry about,
Hmm.
that essentially you can just tell these things, hey, AI, this is how you hack this particular portion of a thing. I want you to
Right.
just keep doing this endlessly on all the random targets you could possibly find and just never
Oh,
stop.
wow.
Yeah. No human's got the endurance
No,
to do
yeah,
that
and
many
that's the scary
attempts.
thing about AI is that it doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't need to eat, it doesn't need to rest. It can just keep going and going and going until it searches and finds the answers that it's looking for,
But check
or
this out.
learns
We
the answer,
well,
through trial and
well,
error, because they can
essentially
learn.
the cool thing is we've got AI on our side too that can learn as well. So what we've got is
True,
AI watching our AR is currently
but
watching our
they
network.
do it so damn fast, really.
Yep. And they're seeing all the patterns of how people normally connect to things. And they see,
Hmm.
okay, at this point in time, Dylan usually goes to this server and does some things in the server. Sometimes he goes to
Right,
this server, but he's always doing it from this IP and he's always
right,
doing it using this protocol. So
right.
as soon as some other, my account logs in from some other server way over there and then
Hmm.
starts coming in from a different direction,
They're gonna say,
well,
"Was this
that
you?"
yeah, that's not normal. And then it
Yeah,
throws up a red flag. It's like, hey, somebody's doing something and maybe they got some credentials that they shouldn't have or
right.
something like that. So
Yeah,
there are, AI, it sucks to use fire to fight fire, but essentially that's what it is these days. You just gotta have
right.
to,
Yeah,
keep
because
up the
Google
pace.
does that for you. A lot of different apps do that for you. If there's login activity, noted from someplace that's not familiar to that, then they'll
Yeah.
alert you of it, And you have to go in and
Yeah.
say, "Yes, it was me."
Yeah, and I've set off some alarm myself, like deleting some files. Like, is somebody deleting all our stuff? It's like, no, that was just me cleaning up old things.
Right.
But it's better to be asked than to just not be aware. So another thing,
Julianne asked, "Do you recommend not keeping passwords in a keychain or Google Passwords?"
so keychain Google passwords, I think you're probably fine with those. It's just one of those things again where if you put all your eggs in one basket, like for example, we use LastPass at LastPass at my place of work, and they
Uh-huh.
had a breach, probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But they're like they didn't get the password information. They just got personal emails and stuff like that from the
Oh
company
wow.
itself. So the
Yeah.
actual function,
Yeah.
held together.
Uh-huh.
But if you want to use something to store your passwords, Keychain, Google, I mean, they're
Mhm.
basically going to be as secure as humanly possible because they're going to have such a huge target on their back that they're going to need to have that level of security.
It's true.
And they've got insurance and a bunch of other stuff. So if something does
Right.
happen, they're kind of ready and prepared to deal with that.
Well,
So
that's good. Good to know.
KeePass, any of these, Google password, um, you should probably be
That's
fine.
if you don't know runes and you can't store them in here.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, if you keep your like I said, if you keep your password simple enough to remember, it's just like 3 or 4
Right.
words, maybe a sentence or something,
Mhm.
and it's just the way that you type it in that keeps it
Right.
secure. It's
Yeah.
not too hard to remember some of these too.
Yeah, that's true.
But back to what happened to where I
Oh
work.
yes. Back to the
Um,
hackers. They
yeah.
hijacked you. They
So
ransomed you.
yeah. So what they did was essentially at after Friday afternoon. This is like 6, 7 o'clock now. seven
Uh,
thirty, internet starts going down, and it's
yeah.
like what? So first off, they did it after Friday, after everybody left for the weekend. So they were going to
Hmm.
hope that everything just went down over the
Oh,
weekend, and by the time
yeah.
Monday rolls around, we come in and it's like, uh-oh, what's going on? But we knew
Yeah.
immediately. So we
Yeah.
went in, and within 20 minutes, I'm in the building,
Yeah.
and we're seeing we can't access our DNS inside the building. We can't,
Hmm.
a lot of things are just shut down. Like they just turn off
Right.
these machines.
Yeah.
Um, I'm like, well, screw
Surprised.
this.
Like,
Let's just go to
I
the
mean, does
server
this
room.
affect like the lights and the all this other stuff too? Because it's like everything's computerized now.
So the only thing that really got affected was customers' internet around
Okay.
town. So at this point,
Okay.
7:30, there's like an internet outage basically for all of
Right.
town. And
Wow.
the reason for that is because we use DNS that we host ourselves.
Uh-huh.
and
You're gonna get a
every
couple
hour,
calls on that.
yeah, I mean, the help desk is getting blown up. It was all hands on deck. So as
Right.
the help desk is getting blown up
Yeah.
from calls coming in, I go to the server room, and oh, we can't use our root passwords to get into the server. And it's
Oh
like
my.
that's not supposed. That doesn't happen normally. Somebody's
Now the
clearly gotten it.
server is like the house where it lives, right? It's like the
So the
place
server,
where it stays, you
yeah,
know,
the server
like its
has
address.
many many small servers within it. So
Uh-huh.
think of like the TV, the internet, phones. Each of those services has a server that needs to run it. So our servers for all these different services are in a big server that houses
Hmm.
all these little servers inside it. And the big
Okay.
server we couldn't get into. And we're like, well, that's not good. And we're trying to figure out a way to get into these things because everything's basically gone dark. We can't ping anything. We can't,
Right.
log into anything. So I'm like,
Oh no.
hey, do you mind
This
if we
this is gonna be
this
bad.
yeah, this is not looking good, but essentially we've got, a number of options. Let's try A, B, C, D, all the way down the
Right.
list until we exhaust everything. And I'm like, we do have a plan Z. And that is when I was younger, I used to hack my older brother's computer because he was the only one basically who had a computer that worked in the house. So I got my hands on back at the time an OPH Crack Live Boot CD. And what that does is, like I was talking about earlier, it it sits as a login screen and tries to hit the login screen with every password possible. I knew his username, so I didn't have to worry about that. I just had to
Yeah.
feed in every possible password, and it sat there for maybe like 6 hours. Finally got the password.
Oh, good.
Well, after, over the years, my tools and my, kind of know has gotten a little better. And what
Right.
I could do is basically the same thing, except rather than trying to bash my way into the password, I would go around the password. So
Yeah.
effectively, what I did
The
was
back door.
took
Going in the back door.
well, in a way.
Yeah.
So I took the top of like when you boot up a machine, you've
Hmm.
got an operating system, and I took
Right.
that off. And I put
Right.
a new operating system on that so it could log in that didn't have a password to get into. So I just
Right.
put it into their operating system. Now I can log into the machine.
Right.
And I could look and dig
But
into
then
where the files were.
all your records would be gone, right? All it'd be like starting new. So like all
Well,
your files and things that you had saved, like customer files and whatnot,
so,
would have been gone,
so
or
if,
would not
if
part of that.
if they were encrypted, they would still be in the state that they were. All I did
Okay.
was I just went around the login screen and just gave
Okay.
myself a different login screen.
Okay.
So
I gotcha.
now it sees all these disks and drives as
Uh-huh.
storage that I can connect to, basically like folders. So rather than booting
Mhm.
up and like, hey, here's all your customer information, it's just files that I can like pick and choose and look at things. So I
Right.
find the file that's got the password and I blow the password away. I'm not going to read through all this corrupted data stuff and just say password line clear. Then
Yeah.
I take my temporary bootable media out, start it back up, and now we can log in, no password required, and we just get control of our servers back.
Right.
So I did that for all of our servers, and
Yeah.
hey, all of our services are back up and running.
Oh
So
boy.
yeah, so it was just one of those things where like we knew immediately what was going on. I was able
Right.
to get in and get control back
So
before the
you
encryption
so you
really
kind of
even
said,
started.
screw you guys. I'm gonna find a way, and I'm not gonna pay you.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
like, you
Good
know
for
what?
you.
Let's not even let this guy encrypt anything. He's not even got time enough to do that. But there's
Yeah.
a third thing that happened too, and we really lucked out. The guy didn't know he was doing it. I've got a cat down here. So the guy didn't
he
really
was
know what he was
an
doing.
amateur
Yeah.
up
And
against the professional.
well, I in a way, I guess. But
Yeah,
so
you are.
CISA, this CISA.gov has
Yeah.
released a statement basically on the kind of attack that we were targeted with.
Yep.
And there's basically the way that they put them out is there's a little like FBI flash saying, hey,
Yeah.
there's a ransomware indicators. Look in your systems, look at these processes, look at these files. If your
Yeah.
hashes match these things, then
Right.
you got to look at some other stuff. If you got people trying to hit you from these particular IPs, you got to look at some stuff.
Because they can
But
encrypt their stuff and just put it in there where you don't really notice it right away, can't they? And then you
uh,
hit a button and it starts executing a program.
yeah, basically what it can be is a kind of like a time bomb that they put in place. But essentially, we've found it all before it blew up. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
yay.
Yeah,
And
yay for
but
you guys.
this
That's
this
good.
article this article is like a mile long. And what this
Yeah.
article is the full process from start to finish of how they chip their way in, what they
Wow.
do when they get in, and then like what they send out so that they can come back later and cause even more problems.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's a heck of a
Well,
read, and it goes over
yeah,
every vulnerability,
it is
every
a heck
step,
of a read.
every script that
Yeah.
gets run. And there's a part here, I don't know if it's this one or not.
Let me
There's
see
a
if I
part
can
where
read it.
there's a part where they end up
Yeah.
doing a typo and it ends up not working correctly,
Oh,
just the way that
no.
it worked for us. So it's just like thankfully they were too hasty and they typed it wrong and it didn't
Uh-huh.
work.
Uh-huh.
So part of the thing didn't even run,
Good.
even if it did work.
Yeah,
But
that's
so
good.
and then
Yeah, because when you're
they give you
typing
all
that
the
stuff out, it has to be exact.
yeah,
Yeah.
exact. I mean, I've had code not work for like multiple days because I had a comma where I should have had a period or
Period.
vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
And
So you got to catch
luckily
all
it's
that
not.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically it'll go over every different security flaw and all that stuff. So we
Yeah.
are, I work for an ISP. We
Uh-huh.
provide internet. So I
Yeah.
it's my job to read through this and see, here's if you want to not have this attack hit you,
Yeah.
separate your user and privileges accounts,
Right.
enforce the principle of least privilege. So they give you basically a readout of these are the
Yeah.
steps to take so it doesn't
To
happen.
protect yourself
So
from that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
essentially, in terms of, if you're worried that AI is going to blow us all up and take all of our data and stuff, like we've got, they hand us the playbook of like, this is what you do to not get blown up by AI. So we're kind of,
She asks, are
yeah,
hackers also
yep,
hacking phones and cars that connect their phones to the car and the internet? So, like these
yes.
smart
So,
cars and stuff.
yep. So that's one of the reasons I don't really have a Tesla and stuff like that. I'll wait for the people to figure out how to protect the networks and all that stuff, and then I'll
Yeah.
hop on. But
I'll wait. I'll
it,
wait until they get the electricity problem figured out with that thing, because it sucks. They suck up a lot of wattage, and it's they're still making electricity by burning coal. People. Sometimes it's nuclear, sometimes it's wind, but there's not a lot of solar, and also nuclear power is not that great either. So, if they're burning coal to make the electricity for you to charge your car, it's not worth it probably. So that's just my little 2 cents worth.
gotcha.
So
So
anyway,
for
Dylan,
yeah,
that's awesome, and I'm glad that you caught them before they wreaked havoc with your company, and
yep.
you were probably their hero. But
Well,
I
we'll
I
see.
also wanted to ask you some questions about type 1 diabetes, because this is
Yes.
about health and your health journey and stuff, and the road to healing and all that. And so I just wanted to ask you, what is it like every day to be, type 1 diabetic? Kind of give us a little picture of a day in the life.
Okay. So there's a an optimistic day and there's kind of a pessimistic day. But so the
Yeah.
optimistic side is essentially it'd be like asking someone who drove a car, hey, I know you've heard of these automatic vehicles and these automatic cars they shift for you and all that stuff, but I see that you drive a manual car. What's that like
Uh-huh.
driving a manual car? And like
Yeah.
it's a question that they don't, you don't really get asked. So it's like, I haven't
Hmm.
really thought about it in such a long time. It's like I just get in the car and I drive.
Yeah.
So for someone who like if you manage your diabetes well,
Yeah.
you're basically like anybody else.
Yeah.
It's like driving a manual vehicle. As long as you shift correctly and you take care of your car, it will
Hmm.
probably outlast automatic transmissions because,
Probably. Yeah.
yeah, as long as it's well
Probably.
taken care of.
Hmm.
If you grind your gears a bunch, your transmission is going to go to crap. You're going to throw a rod, and not a lot of
Yeah.
good things are going to happen.
Right.
So I was diagnosed when I was 19 with type 1 diabetes, which is you get it when you're like 7 usually.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, usually
juvenile
it's
diabetes.
children. Yeah, it's juvenile diabetes. That's correct. Yeah.
But I got it when I was 19, which was, whatever. I got some Halloweens in, I guess. So
Yeah. You got to
I'm
eat some
pretty used
candy.
to it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty used to it now.
Yeah.
Basically
How old are you
the
now?
long part of it
Are you
is
31?
I am 32 now, turning
32. Okay.
30. No, I'm 33. I'm turning 34 this year.
Are you really? Oh my goodness. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so it's been a while since I had to look. Um, but essentially, as long as you're, wake up, I check my
Hmm.
blood sugar, make sure it's where it's supposed to be.
Right.
For anybody who's not diabetic, 100. What is even the metrics for that? It's uh, blood sugar is measured in what?
Oh, it's
What
let's say
unit?
milligrams. Is it milligrams? I don't know. Micrograms.
Millimoles, millimoles per liter or milligrams per deciliter, which is basically
Okay.
the same thing.
Milligrams per
Um,
deciliter. Okay.
yep. So my blood, you want to have, around 100 millimoles per liter of
Okay.
of whatever your blood sugar rating is.
Hmm.
Um, the normal for normal people is anywhere between 72 and 100.
Yeah.
For people that are, maybe hypoglycemic,
Hmm.
they might need a snack to kind of get them to be normal range.
Right.
But so it being basically 100, I look at it as a percentage.
Yeah.
So if you're at 100%, you're pretty much good to go. Stay at 100%. That's
Yeah.
that as good as you can get.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 80 and 100%.
Yeah.
You go to 200%,
Yeah.
that's
It's
you're
a
overloading
little
the system
much.
basically.
It's a little
You hit
rich.
300%, you need to start, pumping the brakes a little bit, get back down to
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
When I was diagnosed, I shot up to 600.
Oh, geez.
And we went to the hospital immediately, basically.
Yeah.
Because at some point your blood basically turns to acid. It messes with the pH of your blood, and
Yeah.
a lot of your, hormones and all kinds of
Hmm.
stuff
Oh,
requires
yeah.
pH to be where it needs to be.
Yep.
And what happens if you are diabetic and you don't have insulin? It's a process called ketoacidosis. And what it
Hmm.
is you need insulin for your cells to absorb sugar. So
Yes.
if you
It gets
are
the sugar.
if you're
It's like
diabetic and
opens the door. It's like the key for opening the door to
yeah,
sugar to get into your cell.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So if you don't have any insulin, that sugar is going to be floating around your blood, and your cells are going to be like, that sugar looks really good. Boy, I wish I could have some,
Mm.
but I don't
Yeah.
have any keys to get that
Yeah.
sugar in me right now. So
Exactly.
what ends
Yeah.
up
They're
happening is,
starving. Out there starving.
yep. So that's exactly what ends up
Yeah.
happening is you end up starving, which sends your
Yeah.
body to say, "Hey, I'm starving. It's time to break down some fat cells
Right.
and eat that instead."
Yeah.
Well, even
Or
that doesn't get
muscle
you enough.
protein. It'll break down
Yep.
protein too. Yeah.
And that's what happens next is you're still
Hmm.
starving and the fat cells didn't work. So
Hmm.
shoot, the only thing left we get start burning that muscle down too. And
Yeah.
all that extra energy, all that extra material is just dumping into your blood cells or into
Yeah.
your blood
Into your
vessels
blood.
and flowing down
Yeah.
with it. And
Right.
it's your blood's just turning more and more into acid until
Mhm.
you wither away, basically.
Yeah.
And
And
I
it's not taking away any of the, things that you don't need either, It's just like all kind of getting because the viscosity of it changes.
I mean, you can like if my blood sugar is really high, like I can taste it in my mouth, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then for low blood sugar, like you want to be towards 100 if you can. But
Yeah.
once you hit about 70, you start getting a little fatigued, about
Kind of
60,
shaky.
50,
Yeah.
50, 60, you start, getting kind of dumb. Like you start getting like I can't even do
Mm.
math at this point.
Oh
Once you
no.
hit 40,
Yeah.
you're starting to shake. Like once you hit 30, you're crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
And here's kind of the scary part about knowing what your blood sugar is. I used to work a very active job. I used to
Hmm.
be a professional fencer, as in I used to build and install fences. Um,
Not the kind of
so
fencing they do in the
yeah,
Olympics.
yeah, I
Okay.
wish. But so yeah, so I do a lot of picking up lumber and like moving things around and a lot of heavy stuff. So a lot of active, my muscles would be eating and burning that sugar pretty regularly. So I would be able to
Right.
tell as soon as I hit 70, like my muscles are trying to get that sugar, and it's like, hey, you're running out.
Yeah.
So now that I work in an office job, I can, my blood sugar can go, down over time if I'm not watching my stuff.
Right.
And then I get up and start using my muscles, and that's when my muscles start getting hungry. And then they
Right.
go ask for that sugar, and it's like, hey, you
It's
buddy,
not
you're at a
there.
40.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I have like 1 minute or less to get myself to some food before the effects of my low blood sugar start kicking in.
Right.
And that's where it's like, you want to stay within that 100 range as much as possible, because the more that
Right.
you drift away, if you spend more time in the 200 range,
Yeah.
now you're not going to be able to tell when you're hitting 200, because that's the normal
Yeah.
now. Or if you
Well, and
stay,
it causes
I'm constant.
cellular damage if you don't stay within that ideal area, it causes cellular damage, which can then
Yeah.
shorten your life even.
Well, so one of the things that you'll hear if you're diabetic, or diabetics, is a term A1C. And let me look up what the A1C stands for, because I'm a
Here,
very
I'll
bad
let you
guest.
there you go.
So A1C is, let's see, I got a little chart here too. A1C is, I don't have a definition. It just tells me what it is. Okay. Long story short, in the layman terms, A1C is going to be when your body makes new blood cells, it makes it in your bone marrow. So your blood cells are going to be produced, and they've got proteins and sugars and all kinds of stuff inside them to make them function. Based on what your blood sugar level is at the time of the creation of those red blood cells, they're going to have a marker within them that, some quantity of some vitamin is at this level for this blood cell. And over the course of 3 months, you're going to cycle through, probably half your blood cells. I'm not sure how long they last, but your blood cells will be replenished over time. And every 3 months, I'll go into the doctor and get an A1C check, and it'll see, over that 3 month span, how is your blood sugars? Was it, five is basically perfect. If you're at 100 blood sugar level for every time you check it, your A1C is going to be like five. And it's a logarithmic scale. I can't go into the math exactly what
Yeah.
five means exactly, but five
Yeah.
is good. For
Yeah.
me, I'm at about a six, because I'll go in about 100, 150 sometimes. And when
Yeah.
you get sick, you want to be higher than lower, because when you get
Yeah.
sick, you can't really eat, you can't really regulate your blood sugar. So it's better to coast
Yeah.
towards like the 200 range, if,
Yeah.
better than going to 50.
Because you had
Um,
COVID, right? You had COVID.
I had COVID, then I
And you got
got sick
really
because
sick.
of Valentine's Day, because I was handing out a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. Like
Yeah.
everybody's coughing all over the place. So yeah, I've been sick by 3 times this year already. So my
Oh man.
A1C is a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But I've known some, and when I was in the hospital bed, my grandpa calls like, "Hey, I had a buddy who's diabetic. He had his feet chopped off, so be careful." I'm
Oh,
like, "Well, that's
thanks.
right
Thanks,
what I want to
Grandpa.
hear. Thanks, buddy."
Yeah.
But my thing was, as I'm newly diabetic, nobody tells me like, how bad is bad. Like how, if my blood sugar's, I check my blood sugar and it's at 300, like, oh crap, am I losing a toe? Nobody told me any of that
Well,
stuff.
see, that's the thing, though. It's over time. If you
Yeah.
allow that to go over time, it will cause cellular damage, like the kind that you get when you have to have your feet removed. But if you can maintain a somewhat level blood sugar throughout your days, then you can combat a lot of that
And that's where that
and hope to
A1C
keep your
comes.
feet. Plus, get exercise. That's another thing, to exercise and maintain your blood sugar. And those are two things that you can and eat, by maintaining your blood sugar, you have to eat right. So that's another thing that you really have to watch, the things that
Mhm.
you put in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um, like for me, one of the biggest things that just boggles my mind is pop. Soda, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all Mountain Dew. The I'm very much a function over form kind of human being, and to see pop, every once in a while as a dessert, I can see.
I'm having
But
water.
similarly to cake, you won't see me
Mhm.
eat cake for every single meal. So,
Right.
for people who, if you're trying to watch your
Oh,
weight or you're trying
pop
to do
is
good with your blood
terrible.
sugar, just,
Mhm.
you know, I will have
Don't
a
have
pop
soda pop.
maybe once a
And
month.
don't give it to
You
your
know,
kids, unless it's like their birthday, you know.
yeah.
If they want to
This is
pop on their birthday, give it to them. But,
mhm,
otherwise every day, no, no way. That's just, you're killing them. You're killing them with that
mhm,
shit. It's got high
yeah.
fructose corn syrup. It's acidic. I swear to God, my stepdad died because of Mountain Dew, and he took it into excess. But it starts in childhood. You start giving your kids pop, they get a taste for it, so then they want it more and more and more until they're having it every day, and that is just not gonna ever get them anywhere good.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's an unnecessary cost, and the
Yes.
amount of the amount of, sugar and energy in it.
Oh
Like if you
yeah.
ate, if I went out to the restaurant, I got a restaurant in town that I go to. They got a big old hamburger steak. They've got
Yeah.
mashed potatoes and gravy. They've
Oh,
got some
that sounds
vegetables
good.
in there. They've got a dessert with Jello and all that stuff. I could
Nice.
eat that entire thing. And
Oh yeah.
total carbs is probably about 50 to 60
Oh
total
yeah.
carbs. So I would take six
Lot.
units of insulin. So it'd
Yeah.
be, you know, it's a whole dinner.
Yeah.
You take one can of pop, or you take a
Hmm.
bottle, like a 20-ounce bottle, you
Yeah.
might as well have just inhaled that entire dinner in one sitting. But I'll see people
Yeah.
eat that with their dinner. And it's like you
Yeah.
just ate two dinners, man.
Two dinners.
Like
Yeah,
that's
with
so
the
much,
pop.
so much, calories and sugar and stuff that,
Yeah.
I I get people like it tastes a certain way that people like,
But you know
but
what?
in
It's just, and
moderation.
that's fine. Have it for a treat. Like you said, have it
Not every
occasionally.
day.
Have one once a week.
Yeah.
Indulge yourself. Have one once a week. For me, it's like maybe a couple times a month. I might have some like carbonated soda. So,
I do
but
like a
yeah,
frozen soda.
it's not something that you want to drink every day. This is what you need on the daily.
Yes.
And as much of it as you can stand to get in you.
Yep.
So but you were talking about too how difficult it is to get insulin, like how
Oh,
they're just
yeah.
like making profit off of your illness, and that's just not cool.
Yeah. So let me grab a couple things here. I've got
Okay,
one is a
here, I'm going to go ahead and
uh
leave it to you so you can show your slides that
all
you
right.
got going.
So when I was diagnosed, I'm sitting in the hospital bed. My mom's crying because she's like, "Oh my God, my little baby's got diabetes," and I'm like, "Yeah, it sucks, but I'm still alive. It's not pancreatic cancer. There's so many things I would rather not have, and I'd prefer to have diabetes over having those things. But paying for it is the biggest pain of having diabetes. Paying for it specifically in the United States. I'm not sure I think this is just a percentage that they put a dollar sign in front of for the amount that's totally paid for across the planet. But essentially, compared to the next, most expensive price for insulin on the planet, we're paying 5 times as much for the same stuff for for really no reason other than insurance and because they can. Um, Over the years, this is a study back from 2017. Um, a single vial of short-acting insulin is about this is cash value. So this is one of these boxes. Um, in this box there is one of these. And per month, I use about three of these guys per month. One's a long acting, two's are short. So it's a total of three of these things, which, 5 years ago or so was about $750, $800 cash. With insurance, it's not that much, but through insurance, it's the reason it's so expensive in the first place. This is 5 years ago. This is the trend essentially of the cost of insulin per vial over, since 96 to 2016. It just keeps going up. Number keeps going up. But does the cost of these things increase to make? I don't think so. Usually what ends up happening is there's a new delivery method that they just patented, and that's what they're charging for. The vial, the stuff inside the vials, it's just actually the same stuff. They make a breakthrough maybe once every 10 years. So that's the main pain of anyone who's got diabetes is ask them how they pay for it, and they will tell you a fun story. Uh, when I was first diagnosed, I didn't even have insurance, so 12 grand I had saved up when
Mm,
I was first diagnosed.
wow.
Within about a year, I was moving back in with my parents because I'm like,
Yeah.
until that first year kicked off and my insurance paid for it, but
Wow.
yikes.
Yeah.
So
That must have been just incredible, the amount of
it's
expense that you
it's
had to go through,
disheartening to see.
just to stay
Yeah, it's
alive.
disheartening to
It's
see.
not like
Yeah,
it's not an elective thing. You didn't say, "Oh, I think I'll go out and do this today." No,
there
it's
is
you
some
can't
good
live
news.
without it. I mean, there's a lot of medications like that you can kind of get by without,
Yeah,
that you get anyway. But I mean, like people in general. But for you, without insulin, you won't make it a day.
you got you get about 3 days, but they're not very pleasant days. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Um,
And so I mean it's not
so
like it's a wanna, it's a have to. And
yeah,
people in America should not have to go through that. They should not
yep.
have to worry about how to pay for something that they'll die without. And they
Mhm.
shouldn't have to worry about paying for insurance that's ridiculously expensive. Still, you still have to pay deductible. You still have to pay your premiums on it. So I mean, you're still paying a bunch of money to then pay a bunch more money, you know, and it's just
Mhm.
ridiculous, and it's all a scam. And people are making money off of this shit, and it's not right. It's not right that anyone should make money off the back of someone else like that, someone who is struggling to just have a life and stay alive.
Yeah, it's
That's my
very much
opinion.
it's one of those things where, if it affected you personally,
Hmm.
this would change overnight for those kind of people. But
Right.
there's two things I do want to mention though, before I
Yes.
drop off here.
Here, let me
So
let me go ahead and.
there's two things. One, the there is something that has been put in place recently for if you're on Medicaid and you get you got insurance through the government, through Medicaid. I think it's Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid. There is a price cap that they're coming with so that you're only paying $35 for a vial if you have Medicaid. But you have to be like 55 or older, so it doesn't really do a whole lot for people like me. But it's good that at least something's happening, and some people are going to get affordable insulin. But this graph here on the left, you may hear that not all insulins are expensive, that there is what's called a Walmart insulin that you can get for like $20. And it is true, and it will keep you alive. But if you don't know how insulin works, it can actually end up killing you. So, what this is a chart of is the effect of insulin being absorbed in the body and how quickly it can change your blood sugar over the course of time. So the stuff that I use for my fast action insulin is the stuff in the pink line here. So over the course of, or maybe this is nope, this line, even the sharper line. So the fast acting stuff that I've got goes over the course of about 6 hours. So if I eat food, the amount of food that I digest matches the amount of insulin combating my sugar. So my sugar is going up as I'm digesting the food, and the insulin's keeping it down at basically the same rate, so I stay about the same. That's the really expensive stuff that I got right now. And that's basically the stuff you want to use. You want to use as close to natural as possible because that's going to keep your blood sugar stable and good. This stuff that's over the 24-hour, 12-hour period, 18-hour, this is your Walmart stuff. So as you're eating your food, your sugar is going to spike way up, and then over time, that insulin's going to slowly push that down. But you're going to have these big, you're going to go from 100 to 200 to 250 to 300 before it starts going back down. And then you're going to see that, and you're like, oh snap, I didn't take enough insulin. So then you take more insulin because you're at 300 and you need to go down to 100. So you end up taking more insulin, and then that piles on, and then you go to bed, and then when you go to sleep, it keeps going down because you've taken so much insulin at this point that you don't wake up. So that's the danger of Walmart brand insulin. If you know this graph is different, you can account for that and just take the normal amount you're supposed to take and just wait it out. But if you see that you're way higher than you expect and you take more, that's going to cause some problems. So just keep
Right.
that in mind. If somebody suggests a Walmart type insulin, you need to keep in mind that it does work about the same. It's just over such a much longer time period that you
Yeah.
can run into trouble if you're not aware of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it on that. But it is good that, at least that is affordable. If,
Hmm.
everything went to crap, you had no other option. That'll keep you alive. You just got to really
Right.
account for, basically I need to take my insulin like 3 or 4 hours before I eat if I'm
Yeah.
taking that stuff, and then
I
for
remember
four
always
hours
making
after
you
I'm done eating.
check your blood sugar before it was bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah. Just make sure you're not taking too much, basically.
Right. And just be sure, you're okay before you go to sleep because you sleep for several hours, And so then in that time, things can change, So you want to at least know where you were before you went to sleep.
I'm
But
not a doctor, though.
anyway,
You can always talk
yeah.
to a doctor, and they can tell you more information too. But
Yes,
just
that's true. So yes, if you think you might be diabetic, consult a physician. And if you are diabetic, hopefully we've given you some insight on a few things to look for, and just keep your blood sugar steady as possible throughout all of it. And but don't give up living. Do the things you want to do. Get out there. That's why you have the insulin, so then you can still go out and have a good time and do things that you
yeah,
want to do, like go
don't
skiing.
grind your just don't
If there
grind your
was
gears,
snow.
and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So, and I'm so glad that you came to visit and hang out. And I'm going to just sign off here. So just hang out for a minute. But thank you, everyone who gave your time to come and see us tonight. And I hope we've been helpful to you. And come back again next Monday at 8 p.m. And I'll have some fun paranormal guests next week. So I'll see you guys all then. Blessed be.
Yeah, have a good night.